All right, this demo video is going to show you how to use Coll object. Coll is another type of storage object in Max. It lets you store a list of arbitrary length and data types at a single memory index. So you can use it to store scales, chords, other pitch collections, and they can be sent out and stored in a table when you want to play back from them. So we're going to show you how to do that today. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to save our patcher. This is one of those patchers that uses more files, loads files in, so they all need to be in the same place. So let's just say that this is our Coll demo. Saving that. Then we're going to add a Coll object. And we're going to give it an argument, which is a text file. And so I'm going to say, let's just say scales.txt. And there we go. So I have the object, and I gave it a file name. If the file name was already there in the search path for Max, it would load up the file. There's no file by this name in my search path, so I don't think so. So I lock the patch, double click, and it brings up an empty text editor window for entering that in. So then when I go to save it, this is going to get saved as this file. And let's go through. So if I open it up, the format for the data is a symbol, comma, then your list of data separated by spaces. You end the data list with a semicolon. So the symbol is how you're going to retrieve the data, whatever name. It can be any arbitrary name. So we can make symbols that actually tell us something too about what's stored. The data comes after the comma, separated by spaces, then the semicolon at the end. So remember formatting. If this doesn't work, check in your text file. Most likely, most programming errors come from format errors. And so this is one of those times. So let's create some data. We're going to have a major scale, a Dorian mode, a natural minor scale, a Mixolydian mode, pentatonic scale, and a whole tone scale. So start with the major, call it major, comma, then my data, 0, space 2, space 4, space 5, space 7, space 9, space 11, space 12, semicolon. And actually, I'm just going to do a few of these to speed it up. So let's just do a pentatonic and a whole tone. So each data list will be a different duration, different length. So next line, we'll do the pentatonic. That's our symbol, space 0, 2, 4, 7, 9. Use the major form of the pentatonic. Then let's do a whole tone, comma. Can't be any spaces in my symbol, or then it would be two symbols. So whole tone will be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And go to close it. Let me cancel it. If I go to save it, use the Command S to save my scales.txt. I need to call it by the same name that I've used in the argument and put it in the same patch. So I've Coll demo, I have scales.txt, I save it. Then I can close it. And now if I double click, it's there again. Okay. So we need symbols to retrieve the data. That's a great job for a tab object. And tab object needs to have tab items. Remember spaces instead of commas in this one, but I need the things I put in. So I put in major, space, pentatonic, space, and whole tone, and that's it. That's my list. Need to make the buttons wide enough so they all show up, my words. And I'm going to come out of the middle outlet because that's the item symbol. I'm going to put that into Coll. And then if I come out of Coll, I'm going to pull over, let's have a message box, and let's make it kind of big. Let's have the output go over into the right inlet. And so remember here, this is just going to display what comes up. I go through and I can lock my patch. So if I click on major, there's my data list, 02, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. And that's not even a correct major scale as I'm looking at it. Since no one here can talk to me as I do this, hold down the command key and I can get in 02. No, that's right. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. No, that's fine. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's right. So if I go into the right inlet of message, it's showing me the data contents in the message. It replaces the message box contents, and nothing comes out. I'm just using it as a little window. If I hit pentatonic, I've got a 5-note scale, whole tone, 6 plus the octave, and every time I hit. So it just sends the data. There's other things I can send. The symbol associated with the data, if I want to look at that. If I read a data file in when the patch opens, it'll send a bang when it's done reading. And if I output or dump out the whole contents, it'll send a bang. So this is good. I've got a little thing. I can select some data. It's going along. Now, what I need to do is to store these in a table as individual items, I need to break apart the list. So I'm going to go and use an iter object. And iter breaks a list into individual messages. Okay. And here, to store it, I've got to break apart the list. I've got to count the items, pack the count and the item, and store the data in an itable. So this is the first part. I'm going to break apart. I'm going to connect the left outlet to a print object. I'm going to call it print call, so it has a label. And now I'm going to go to my Max console window, lock the patch, and so if I pick pentatonic, you can see individual messages. The 0, the 2, the 4, the 7, the 9 is all individual, whereas here it's all a list. So I'm breaking it apart, and that's good. Go through whole tone, see it all over again. So that part's working. Now, I need a trigger object. I'm going to count, I'm going to take each item, pack it as the second argument in a list, count it, and pack the count as the first part. So trigger II for integers. And this is how we stored notes in a table. We're going to go through and counter with no arguments. And this will then start at 0 because I'm going to tell it to start at 0. And reset each time. So I have to do a little modification eventually. But the counter is going to go in. This is going to go into pack 0, 0. So the counter is the index location in the table. The item is the value that's stored coming from the individual list. Make a little bit of room for some stuff that's going to go in. Pack's going to go to an itable. Set of pairs in the itable. Let's go back to our inspector, and it's going to be a 12 by 12 table. I'm storing 12. Table range needs to be actually 13. So I can go 0 to 12. And the size is 12 values, which would be plenty. I could do something more, but we'll keep it as that. And the last thing to make this work is that whenever I send a symbol to call, I need to reset the counter to start at 0. Because the counter is going to go to whatever maximum if it never turns back. And each time I go, I want to start storing items in the list from table 0, table location 0. So I'm going to break apart here. And the first thing that's going to happen is that this tab is going to go to a trigger object. And its arguments of a symbol and a bang, first thing it's going to do is send out the bang. And the bang is going to send to a reset object. So that's going to be down here. Receive reset. So it's receiving a bang, a message with a 0 will be banged, and if it goes into the middle inlet, that'll reset the counter to that number on the next clock. So which means every time I select a symbol, the counter is going to go to 0 and start at 0 when the items in the list come through, and the symbol then gets passed on to call as the next thing. So if I lock the patch, this should all work to store stuff. I can choose a major scale, and you see the notes in a major scale, pentatonic. Now it doesn't get rid of the extra notes, but there's my 5 pentatonic notes, or a whole tone. See them equally spaced as they move up. Okay. And that then lets me store. This can be, I can keep adding things to this. I could add more scales. I could add scales and chords. I could have any arbitrary set of pitches. I just need to save it each time with the Command S before I close it. Then it'll read in. And once I have notes in table, you know how to play them. You can send random. You can send counter. You do need to use whatever the max count is here to set your limit for the random or the counter. If I was going to put that in now, I would do this. I would break this, have an integer, have it send my count limit, or my current count, however you want to do it, and also to pack. And then this would let me set this. For random, it would be this number. For counter, it would be this number plus 1. Actually, this would be the max. This would be fine as the max if you start at 0. Actually, it'd be fine. You're going to start at 0 with your counter. Random's going to start at 0. So this would go into a random object, which could be 0, but it would receive count limit, or counter could also receive the count limit. That would go into the count maximum. And then if you send this index number to the table, you would get the value at that, and you'd be playing notes just like we've done in other patches. All right, so I'm going to save that, and that's it for this one.